The courtyard is a geometry of light and shade. Dust spins in a thin sunbeam. I steady my breath and rehearse lines that sounded better last night. Clay olive fig leaves, everything smells like childhood. I want the morning to bless this choice, or at least not stop me. Father stands half in shadow, half in light. His hands rest at his sides, open, not clenched. I speak in tidy phrases. Future freedom, my share. The words feel new and sharp like sandals not yet broken in. My heart races ahead of them already at the city gate. A copper taste rises in my mouth. Behind Father, my brother pauses, mid-task, eyes narrowed a fraction. He doesn't interrupt, which somehow hurts more. The quiet stretches like a tight rope. I swallow and keep talking as if filling silence could make me right. The courtyard holds our history height marks on a post and nick, where I crashed a jug as a kid. Suddenly, those scars feel like a claim. I want to be bigger than the geometry of this place. I want a horizon that doesn't end at our fields. Father turns to the steward, voice steady. I feel the earth tilt, not refusal permission. The partitioning of what was whole sounds like rope sliding through a calloused hand. My stomach drops. I pretend relief. The steward's eyes flick to me unreadable as uncut stone. Coins clink into my palm. Weight has a way of convincing you you're right. I feel taller and smaller at once. A neighbor passes the gate and slows, curiosity sniffing. I keep my face neutral like I've done this 100 times in 100 houses. I pack cloak, belt, sandals, goatskin pouch. Not much, but it looks like a life if you squint. My brother watches without a word. I want him to argue to give me a reason to stay, so I can reject it. He leaves me with nothing to push against. At the Kaanjilang, children chase each other, dust flying at their heels. I step past them, and the gate yawns open. The road is bright flat and loud with my heartbeat. I tell myself beginnings are supposed to sting a little. First hill outside the village. The rooftops line up like a row of quiet witnesses. I don't look back. Pride is a brittle thing. It hates witnesses. The sun is higher. Sweat beads under my hairline. The world smells bigger out here, dry grass, hot stone. A distant promise. By midday, the path shimmers. I sip from the pouch and picture the city music color faces tilted toward me. I carry Father's eyes in the corner of my mind, like a stone I refuse to admit is in my shoe. The promise of elsewhere keeps me walking. Lanterns sway over a stone square. Each flame a small sun. I step into the crowd, and the crowd parts just enough. Laughter moves like a tide I can catch if I lean the right way. The city smells like smoke and sugar. For once the world seems to be listening. A forearm bars the door. The doorman's eyebrow asks a question. My coins answer. Heat folds over me inside bodies, music, the tart bite of wine. A lute's note slips down my spine. I don't sit. I perform standing like a headliner no one booked, but everyone notices. Friends appear fluent in street names and shortcuts to applause. I buy a round because generosity is faster than intimacy. Cups knock. My name grows louder. I laugh too big, and it feels right. The room tilts toward me as if I moved the moon. At the dice table, luck smells like sweat and iron. Stones tumble, hands hover. A quick-fingered man helps count, taking a tax of attention. I don't mind. Winning is a story I pay to hear. When someone curses, I raise my cup and the curse becomes a cheer. A vendor drapes a cloak over my shoulders, midnight dyed into wool. He calls me sir. The word fits like a second skin. I tip as if tipping can buy a past that agrees with my future. The cloak's weight convinces me I'm heavier in the world. Street music folds into a private room promise. The fee is twice what it should be. I make it 3 times for the nod. Inside the dancer's belt rains coins. My friends chant my line about leaving small expectations behind. I laugh because they do, and because it's easier than thinking. Between songs, quiet appears like a hairline crack in glass. I cover it with more spending. Someone bumps my shoulder. I apologize with another cup. Gratitude sticks to me like perfume then evaporates. The drummer counts off. Everyone forgets. I try to. I feel a hand at my pouch, not stealing testing. I shift smile, pretend not to notice. Better to lose a little than lose the moment. Pride writes the receipt and signs my name. The room moves on without a bruise. Alone later, the window doesn't close. The city enters anyway. I count coins by feel, not sight, the way some people check notifications with the screen dimmed. The new cloak smells of dye and someone else's hands. The room is quiet enough to hear my own breathing argue. From the street, a drum tries to restart the night. The seam of silence widens like a yawn I can't avoid. I lie back and aim my smile at the ceiling in case the city is still watching. Tomorrow, I tell myself, tomorrow will be louder. Chalk scrawls climb a board while the baker trims loaves smaller. The room full of breath becomes a room full of sighs. Coins clink somewhere, and heads turn like plants tracking sun. I hold the gaze of a crust I can't afford, and pretend I'm only here for the smell of warmth. The tavern door remembers my name, but not my credit. The doorman taps a slate where numbers lean against each other like drunks. I make a joke. He doesn't. He shifts, sealing the doorway with the shape of his day. Behind him, music continues for someone else. Friends wave from across the square, smiles clipped short. They discover errands appointments a cousin. We keep our dignity by keeping distance. I lift my hand and lower it a semaphore for I get it. Even my shadow looks thinner, like it's saving light. Luck collects its debts at the dice corner. The quick-fingered man's hands settle on my coins, like quiet birds that don't intend to fly. I laugh, then correct the laugh into a shrug, then correct the shrug into goodbye. The table moves on. I practice the art of not existing. A trader eyes my cloak as if it's already his. I narrate its virtue's color, like midnight, stitching that swears longevity. He names a price that edits my story. I accept anyway. His palms say sorry without moving. Wool leaves my shoulders. So does the lie I was wearing. The job line starts in shade and ends in sun. A foreman counts bodies the way a farmer counts stones in a field, obstacles to be moved. He wants width and endurance, not a boy who can talk. My name goes unspoken. The line shortens by 8 men. I remain. In my room, the wind writes a cold sentence across my neck. I count coins, then count breaths, then count anything that stays still long enough. The cloak gone, the pouch light. Memory drags a chair without asking Father Brother Fig Tree. Shame sits and refuses to leave when I stand. I shoulder crates for a vendor who pays with promises. My hands ache like I've held on to the wrong rope for too long. He thanks me with a gesture that feels like closing a door slowly and politely. I practice being grateful for gestures. The butcher's stall is mostly echoes. He sharpens a knife with the patience of weather. Breadline moved, he says. Edge of town. I ask why. He nods at the sky as if bargaining with it. Because hunger grows in the margins first. Past the orchards, he adds, wrapping nothing in paper. If the wind's wrong, you'll smell it before you see it. I wait. He raises his eyebrows, letting the word fall between us like a dare. Pigs. The syllable lands heavy. I swallow and it doesn't go down. Wind carries the smell, first sour heat, with a barnyard edge. The pens appear like a confession. Crooked rails, muddy rectangles scabbed with straw. A man with a red neck doesn't stop walking as he hires me. The rake lands in my hands like a verdict. Flies write their names on the air. The first bucket sloshes. Pigs flood the trough like a tide with legs. Wood groans. Mud moves. I throw feed and step back. One animal stares up an eye, rimmed in mud, blank as a coin without a king. My stomach answers with a noise I pretend is the wind. The boss points with his chin at a corner I missed. Again, he says. The syllable is a price tag. I scrape until the plank shines with its own damp. My hands blister along old invisible maps. The sun leans on me heavy and uninterested in my opinions. A barefoot boy laughs from the next pen, a dry sound that doesn't travel far. First week I nod. He flicks pig mash from his fingers like rain he's bored of. You get used to it, he says then. Or you don't. His shrug has more years in it than his face. I watch the pigs keep nosing after the food is gone. Memory has a muzzle. My eyes stick to the slick greens and grays congealing at the edges. Hunger rebrands things. The trough stops being a trough and becomes a place where my body thinks about saying yes. Shade finally finds a slice of fence, and I sit in it like a small country I can still claim. Sweat cools to a salt crust. My breath counts for me. Across the lane, the boy whistles a tune without notes. It sounds like work, which is to say, it repeats. The boss chews while talking, so I watch food reshape itself in his mouth. Citizen, he corrects when I call him sir, as if citizenship were edible. He lists deductions as if reciting weather, missed corner, spilt scoop, late start. I nod, because disagreement burns more calories than I've got. Thoughts of the city arrive like visitors who don't stay. Private rooms the dancers belt like rain, the easy chorus of friends when coins flew. I shrink inside the memory until the walls fit. The rake scrapes a steady rhythm, a song with one note, keep going. My hands learn the bucket's weight, the way knees learn prayer by repetition, more than belief. I imagine people scrolling menus they won't order from letting pictures feed the part of hunger that eats with eyes. I look away from the trough. Looking is its own kind of eating. At dusk, the boss flips me a crust that could scratch bark. I bite anyway. The field exhales. The pigs settle into satisfied thunder. The sky goes from copper to bruised purple. I count the grunts, then my breaths, then the fence posts. None of it adds up to full. The pen's finally quiet, a quilt of grunts and straw. I sit with my back to the leaning fence night, rubbing my shoulders raw. Stars snag on splinters. A draft moves through the slats. I try a sentence aloud. It sounds like a tool I don't yet know how to hold. I was wrong, I tell the dark. The words fall heavier than I expected. I try the next bit and stall on the word that used to fit me like skin. Sun. It echoes not back to me, but somewhere past the orchards where the road begins. The boss snores. A dog snaps at dreams. The barefoot boy hums a note and flicks a pebble my way. Practicing for a judge, he teases. I shrug toward the dark. For a father. He quiets. We both stare at the same piece of sky and pretend we don't. I list chores under my breath like a resume shovel haul mend weed. I attach wages to them as if numbers could buy a different past. Safer to ask for work than for welcome. Safer to ask for less than to risk being handed more. Safety feels like a smaller kind of fear. Memory arrives barefoot, father's slow nods, calloused thumbs, the calm of a man who listens before he names. I press my palms together without meaning to. The gesture isn't quite prayer, but it isn't not. I say the sentence again, this time without excuses. It hurts easier that way. Wind carries ash from somewhere I can't see. The cloak gives very little. The night gives less. If you go before morning, the boy says, voice no longer teasing. Daylight measures you. I nod. In the sun, every step is a witness. In the dark, you can pass your fear by. I think of unsent texts and rehearsed voicemails, apologies that live in drafts forever. We practice contrition, like vocabulary, then forget how to speak it in person. My mouth feels stupid with honesty. I roll the words around like a pebble, trying to smooth the edges before they cut. I stand. The fence answers with a small complaint. The earth under my feet is cold and exact. I tie sandals that have learned my feet too well. The pouch hangs light against my hip, a bell without a tongue. I breathe until the breath steadies, and the sentence does too. At the edge of the field, the road is a darker stripe against dark. No moon, just the idea of one behind cloud. I face where home would be if the night were kind enough to draw it. The first step waits like something living. I step anyway. The field recedes. The pens remain their smell, tugging at my sleeve like a last argument. I pull free. Somewhere ahead, a fig tree I never picked from marks the turn. I hold the small flame of my confession behind my teeth. The road receives me without comment. Midday trembles over the road, a mirage you can't drink. Cicadas grind. The air smells like hot rope and fennel. Dust scripts my shins and signs its name. I mouth the opening of my confession until the words feel less like metal and more like something I might survive saying. At the well, a woman works the rope by feel eyes narrowed kindly. I pay too much and don't bargain. Cold knocks against my teeth, then spreads. She studies me as if I were an August sky volatile, but moving on. Long road, she asks. I nod. We let silence bless the cup. Goats pass like loose thoughts. Bells hiccuping on leather thongs. The shepherd cuts a sliver of cheese and offers it without ceremony. Salt wakes my mouth. We walk together 3 breaths, then not. Gifts that ask for nothing, weigh the least, and last the longest. Sandals whisper bad news to the soft places on my feet. I try the sentence again, hear it shrink under the sun. My shadow steps a half beat ahead, as if considering an exit ramp. I picture a message unsent to a parent, all apology, and no send button. Shame prefers drafts. A cart groans past wooden wheels, solving the road one splinter at a time. The driver tosses a date without looking surprised to see me. I catch it like a plan. Sweetness arrives like an argument for staying brave. The pit rests in my cheek like punctuation. A boy with slingshot swagger points his chin at the ridge. Top of that, he says, "You'll know." His grin is a dare that doesn't need words. I thank him with the small wave men use when their hands are more tired than their pride. The hill lifts the breath out of me and rings it. At the crest, the village makes itself from light and geometry. Roofs I've memorized. The fig tree that holds summers. The hammering in my chest counts something I can't yet name. My knees consider negotiation. The road down angles toward consequences. Wind brings a spool of smells, baked clay, olives, someone's stew. Homesickness hits like a handheld thing, not an idea. I try the confession again, and it fits differently, less staged. The horizon stops acting and tells the truth. Dust moves at the field's edge, its own animal. A figure detaches from the doorway and starts across the yard. The motion increases like a thought that won't be talked out of itself. Sun on fabric. A flare of familiar. Everything I practiced collapses into one pulse. My hands hover between hiding and reaching. The figure runs the way people run when time is not the point. Heat loosens around my face. The world smells briefly like water on stone. I take one step that doesn't belong to fear. He tears from the doorway, dust kicking in jubilant commas. His robe tangles, then streams. I forget the sentence I practiced the way you forget your password, with the whole office watching. The road narrows to his face, and the sound of sandals beating time toward me. Impact, then stillness inside the noise. Wool against my cheek, the olive oil warmth of his skin. I'm taller, but feel 9 again. My breath breaks like a line into 2 shorter lines. I try I was wrong, and the words scatter like frightened birds. He holds me away, an arm's length, eyes reading the hunger I wore thin. A servant appears, stops, vanishes to fetch others. A neighbor covers her mouth with both hands. My father pulls me close again, as if even air between us is an insult. Hire me. I start bargaining with humility. It sounds neat, manageable, less expensive than mercy. He turns, calling instructions that land like promises. Clothing that smells like home. A ring that outspeaks my failure. Shoes to teach my feet gentleness again. The crowd blinks, recalculates, stalls. Public grace is a shield. His body is a decision I get to stand inside. I remember screens lighting up with anger and the rare text that says only, "Come home." His hand on my back is that text translated into touch, punctuated with breath. He wipes a thumb along my cheek. Mud becomes a memory. My apology swells to explain itself, graphs, footnotes, causation. He refuses my data answers with embrace. My body understands faster than my brain. This is not a transaction. It's a reunion. Servants sprint in widening circles like birds, startled, then coordinated. A robe flares in sunlight, deep and clean. Someone disappears toward the herd. I hear a calf answer. Laughter escapes a child, then multiplies. The yard learns anew weather preparations. The fig tree paints us with shade. Its leaves stitch cool shapes on his robe and my shoulders. I breathe like I've been underwater and found the edge. The road's heat loosens. The day steps back half a pace, making room. He doesn't let go completely. One hand stays a quiet anchor. The other conducts door, storeroom, kitchen. His certainty steadies me more than logic could. I stand inside the orbit of his decisions and try not to drown in relief. Somewhere a drum skin tightens to the first beat. I look down at dust-colored feet and imagine leather that forgives blisters. A ring will weigh more than my excuses. A robe will redraft my outline. I didn't earn this, and that's the part that terrifies and heals. The yard becomes a sentence, and everyone's a verb. A servant returns with cloth cascading like water. Father's hands guide the robe over my shoulders, smoothing it flat. The weight surprises me. Cool, decisive. For the first time all day, I feel covered by something that isn't dust or explanation. Sidar and lime wash lift from the folds. The fabric erases the road's handwriting on my arms. At the kitchen threshold, a freckled girl stares, eyes bright as coins. She mouths, "He's back," to someone behind her. The word "back" lands in my chest like a chair pulled out for me. A small wooden box opens with the click of a thought finishing. The ring waits, simple as a vow, heavy as a door hinge. Father slides it onto my finger and meets my eyes only after. The circle closes without asking for a ledger. My breath arrives new. A neighbor coughs, ritual clearing its throat. He starts a sentence about propriety. Father cancels it with kindness, a look like a full stop. The man shrugs and looks at the sky as if weather could pick a side. The conversation folds itself quietly and walks away. A boy kneels, sandals at the ready. His fingers find the strap path like water finds downhill. Leather softens against skin gone hard with distance. "Tight enough?" he asks. "Enough," I say, and the word tastes like mercy. The ground loses its teeth. I stand taller without trying. Somewhere in the storeroom, voices debate which calf. Father says the fattened one, and air moves with the decision. It doesn't feel extravagant. It feels accurate. My stomach remembers joy before food arrives. The fig tree twitches its shade, and the afternoon cools by half. A seamstress brushes lint from my sleeve, then pulls back, startled by her own care. "It fits," she whispers, cheeks reddening. I understand her mistake. She meant I fit. I answer with a nod large enough to include the entire yard. The robe answers with quiet gravity on my shoulders. Music tiptoes in, first a drum, then strings, sliding into place. Laughter happens by accident, and then on purpose. A child runs circles around a tray, like the day can't be contained. Smells drift from the kitchen, coriander, roast bread. My bones open doors I forgot were there. Somewhere at the edge, a figure pauses watching. I feel the temperature tilt. Not yet, the day says. The moment will come for counting costs. For now, the yard trains itself to joy. I rehearse a new posture, shoulders unbraced, jaw, unclenched hands not cataloging what they owe. I look at the ring and try to remember my own name, the way Father says it. The metal cools, then warms to me. The robe falls right. The sandals whisper against stone, promising softer miles. When the drum finds courage, I let it borrow some from me and give some back. Dusk slides over the yard, blue cooling gold. The drum keeps everyone's heart on the same page. A servant breathes news at my shoulder. He's at the gate. The word gate suddenly feels like law. I look and see a silhouette holding still enough to stop a party. Father feels the change in the air before anyone names it. He crosses the stones, the fig leaves flickering patterns across his robe. He reaches the doorway where my brother stands, arms crossed, dust on his boots, like a second skin. The music softens without anyone telling it to. From inside the yard, their voices are shapes more than sentences. My brother's chin lifts at small angles that mean years, planting harvest fence, repair ledgers that balance. I can taste the arithmetic from here, credit columns lined with early mornings and not missed rules. Father's hands describe circles, not lines. Welcome, not wage. He points toward the table, the ring me evidence of restoration assembled like exhibits in a case that isn't about guilt, but about breath returning. The drum falters, then waits like a held question. Neighbors study the moment as if it might split. A servant stalls with a tray between places. A child claps offbeat and looks around to borrow rhythm. My robe hangs heavy enough to remind me this isn't theoretical. It's cloth and choice and family in public. I think of offices where celebration emails are sent to all, and someone reads them with a tight jaw, counting unpaid debts. Merit keeps good books. Mercy keeps a bigger table. My brother wants columns. My father is building a room. Father gestures wide fields house son. The motion says nothing is being stolen from you. Something is being given back to him. He isn't asking my brother to pretend I didn't leave. He's asking him to notice that I'm here breathing shoes on. My brother's mouth moves through words he has earned the right to say. He has lived as if goodness were a contract. Today, it feels like a loophole he can't find. He doesn't look at me. I don't blame him. If I were him, I wouldn't want my face used as a mirror either. The fig tree leans a little as if listening. I anchor my hands at my sides and refuse the urge to pay with promises. A servant brushes past with bread. The smell argues for joy in a language older than fairness. I hear my stomach agree. Father steps half into the night with him. The yard stays lit. The gate holds shadow. Two brothers breathe the same air at different temperatures. Somewhere a calf lowing becomes harmony. The question hangs like a lantern between them. Will you come in? I stand where shade and light braid together. I imagine setting a plate aside with his name under it. The drum tests a beat, gentle, as if knocking. My father doesn't move. My brother doesn't either. Between them is a space only a choice can cross. Lamps open like small suns. Music tests a flourish, then retracts. Father and my brother stand half-drawn in the gateway, two silhouettes learning each other's weather. The yard exhales into waiting. A child stifles a giggle, and the silence catches. It turns it into a question. I hold my spot beneath the fig leaves, not joining, not hiding. Father's voice travels as warmth more than words. I hear fragments with me alive, and the way his hands draw a circle in the air. It's an invitation, not a defense. Invitations never sound like victory laps. A neighbor's whisper invents policy. A servant checks the roast and worries about timing. A spoon becomes a drumstick in a child's grip. Conflict arrives, domesticated, sniffing the corners. Shame tries my robe on from the inside. I refuse to model it. The fabric steadies me. I imagine group chats, blinking on a shelf unread messages like moths against glass. Someone types a long paragraph and deletes it. We're all backspace experts. The lamp smoke smells faintly of cedar and regret. Father keeps the door open and his tone low, like hospitality you can hear. He steps deeper into my brother's shadowed weather, not to vanish, but to accompany. His hands trace the outline of weariness, how goodness can make a person tired. He names what isn't being taken and what is being given back. The night listens harder than people do. At the table, a place is set without ceremony. Plate, cup, folded cloth. No banner over it, no speech. The wood under my palm holds a human temperature. It's hard to resent a chair. It just waits exactly the size of a person. A musician plucks and winces, then smiles when the note behaves. Bread is lifted. Its crust sings like it knows the script. Someone adds coriander to the air. The room warms a degree. Life keeps being itself, which is rude and holy at once. Our eyes meet across the polite distance of consequence. His look is a ledger and a bruise. Mine is a bandage, still learning where to stick. We hold that picture together for 3 slow breaths. We are not fixed. We are not strangers. Father's palm opens toward the yard again. The same gesture as earlier. Softer now, like setting down a heavy thing. My brother's shoulders tilt, not surrender, not refusal. A draft threads the lamps. The invitation doesn't fray. The drum suggests a walkable beat. I touch the chair back with 2 fingers as if checking a pulse. The seat stays empty, which is not the same as abandoned. I whisper to the wood like it's a witness will keep the place warm. The door is still open. In families, healing isn't about who's right. It's about who moves first, who runs, who embraces, who dares to say, "Come home." Have you waited for that invitation or been the one to open the door? If you could, today, who would you call, apologize to, or hug? Share your reflections on family in the comments. If this resonated, please like, share, and subscribe for weekly episodes in our Bible animated series.